Welcome everybody. Hi, I'm tuning in early. Actually, let me go live on Facebook too. So I encourage persons, if you can, to catch me on Facebook Live as well. But if you're comfortable here on Instagram, that's cool too. No pressure. That's why I came early so I can announce all of these things while I get myself in order. But if you're tuning in, welcome, welcome. Appreciate you guys. Let me write my little comment here. Hi everybody who's joining in. So if you're just tuning in, I was just letting persons know that I'm also going live on Facebook now as well. So I'm trying to go. Hi guys, I'm sorry I'm not waving back. I'm just trying to multitask. Y'all, let me just sort this out here for Facebook because y'all know Instagram is my judge right now. How do I add a title? Like, come on. Hi everybody. Thanks for tuning in. And just remember that I'm also going live on Facebook as well right now. Now y'all know Facebook is a different speed for me. So I guess the comments will come up here. Yeah, no, it doesn't matter to me. Hi Bree. Hi darling. So you guys know the drill. I come early just so we can get technical difficulties, or God forbid, no technical difficulties. We don't want that. But just so I could get acquainted, and I'm going live on Facebook and Instagram right now. So bear with me while I just make sure everybody is good to go. Sorry for switching y'all around. It won't be like this for long. I just got to fix my computer. Yes, indeed. So tell me how y'all doing. Y'all know I like to check in with you guys. First of all, can somebody tell me, is the music too loud, too low? And can y'all hear me? What does the audio sound like? Y'all give me some feedback before we start diving in. Just right. Hi, Brianna Boo. How you doing, honey? All right, good. And can you tell me the music? Is it too loud? Sounds great. Okay, it's not overwhelming. Okay, perfect. Can somebody join in on Facebook and just comment so I know my comment section is working? If you can. Because y'all know I'm foreign to Facebook. Listen, Facebook is not for me, y'all. Even posting on Facebook, I'd be so confused. Bree, it's good on Facebook or is it good here? Welcome everyone that's joining. Welcome back. Welcome back. Hi, Quantes, darling. How are you? I almost did something, but I don't want to do that. Video title. Okay, perfect. I can do that. Hi, everybody. So how y'all doing? I missed you guys, per usual. Even though I go missing a couple weekends sometime, I definitely can't wait to come back to you. Trust me. And I'm so excited for this topic. Am I the only one? Tell me how y'all feel about this topic so far. Hi, Kyle. Shout out to you, honey. Make sure you send me pictures of him. Okay, so hopefully Facebook Live is good. I haven't seen any comments coming through on Facebook Live as yet, but I'll be sure to be mindful of that. But I am going live in two places, guys, so be sure to share the link to this live as well as share the link to Facebook if you're tuned in. And I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Cleta Soul Child. And the topic for today is the damaging effects of stereotypes. And I think this is just a great discussion to have. I feel like this discussion can go in so many different directions and angles. I don't even know where to begin. I mean, technically, I do know where to begin, but I think it'll be great for us to just start with societal pressures and stereotypes that all of us deal with on a day-to-day basis, and then work our way home as far as Turks and Caicos Islanders dealing with stereotypes. Hi, Venicia. Hi, darling. Okay, I see a comment on Facebook, so that's great. So thank you so much for tuning in. Again, if you're just joining, whether it's on Facebook or if you're joining here on Instagram, I'm live in two places, so I'll definitely be multitasking as far as the comments goes. So just bear in mind to be patient with me, but I'm definitely going to be sure that I catch everyone, at least to the best of my ability. So first things first, I just want to say thank you to TRG for this being this week's sponsor. And you know, of course, if you're used to watching my lives, technically I usually have a game segment. And this time I'm going to do it a little differently, especially because I'm going live in two places. So I'll announce it towards the end. It's nothing hard. So yeah, stay tuned for that. So today's topic, the damaging effects of stereotypes. I appreciate persons who tuned in and mentioned comments and stereotypes in the box question that I posted yesterday. Thanks, Venicia. Appreciate it, darling. Yes, thank you so much to persons that gave their feedback and things that they want to discuss, because there are so many different stereotypes that we can address. And the reason for us, to me, why I think it's important to have this conversation is because we all can use some constructive criticism, and stereotypes is just a negative thing for most of us across the board, and most of us can be dealing with personal stereotypes, or just you fall into a category of stereotypes that you don't feel like you necessarily need to be in. And I think it's so great because my family and I was actually having a discussion last night, and it just so happened that we ended up talking about stereotypes indirectly, and the conversation was great. And I'm so happy to even share some of the insightful things that we discussed with one another here on this live today. So thank you for everyone that's tuning in. Again, I am live here on Instagram and Facebook, so be sure to join in the comments and share your piece. And the first thing, TRG just joined. Shout out to TRG, our sponsor this week. Thank you so much, Mel. We appreciate you here. So yes, let's dive into it. I think before I start going with the list of stereotypes that we can all discuss, I think I want to address some stereotypes that I deal with. And especially here in Turks and Caicos, it's a small island. Most people feel like they know you, because it's a difference when you know someone and you're just acquaintances, or they just see you all the time. And that was another struggle that I had with working in Scotiabank. A lot of people knew me before I realized I knew who they were. Naturally, they feel like they come in the bank every, for example, Friday, and in the back of their mind, it's like, how could you not remember me? And it's like, to me, it's like, I'm one face that you always come to, and I see 1,000 faces every day. So even when I went out in public, of course, it's a compliment that of people feel like if you worked in a bank or work in a bank, that they hold you to a high standard, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's great. But I remember going to certain places, and it's like, why you out here? You a banker. You don't need to be, you a girl like you don't supposed to be out here to these places, etc., etc. And it's just one of those things where it's like, but what do you know about me? What do you know about my personality? Hi, Rhonda. What do you know about my personality to even determine where I should be, where I should hang out? What do you think you know I like? So that was one of the stereotypes. And of course, naturally, if you come from a traditional home, the stereotype where if you're a church girl and you're heavy in the church, for example, you wear skirts or dresses past your knees. So if you're showing your knees, that indicates like you're promiscuous. And it is so many different things. It grows. We can talk about this across the board for days, but that's one of the things that that I've dealt with. And now my current situation, as far as being Cleta Soul Child, branding myself a certain way, I'm gonna be so real with y'all. Like in real life, I just turn up, I have fun, like I'm cool, I could vibe. But certain people feel like, oh, you Cleta Soul Child, you can't do this, and I'm like, I don't want to be Cleta Soul Child. I don't want to basically live a facade, because that is how you lose yourself. And I'm not trying to lose myself for nobody. As much as I love y'all and I do appreciate the people that hold me to a high regard, because I say that to people a lot of times. You never know the level or standard to which persons have you in their mind. You could probably be going through things internally as far as insecurities, and you don't even know that certain people just look at you like, girl, you are it, you are gold, girl or guy, man or woman, because there are some men I look up to and they don't even know it. So I say all that to say the stereotypes is very damaging to people, us as individuals. And I feel like the best way to tackle stereotypes and to make sure you don't drown yourself or corner yourself into allowing society to force your hand to be or act a certain way that you know you are or aren't, is to be sound within yourself. Yesterday, my cousin used the word assertive. And I couldn't agree with that more. You have to be assertive. You have to be sure about yourself. You have to know what you want, what Cleta wants. What is Cleta like? And at the end of the day, sometimes you just have to be unapologetic about that, because you have to be able to sleep with yourself at night. And that's all that matters. Be true to yourself. Exactly, Quante. And naturally, let's be honest. Most of us, we can't help that we gossip. If you try to sit up here and act like you don't gossip, come off my live. Come off my live. And sometimes I pray, I say, God, take this gossiping spirit away from me. Not that I actively try to gossip, but sometimes we can't help but, you're on social media. All of us are sharing our personal lives. It's become our norm. We can't help but to share our lives. Every moment of it, every movement that we make, we're sharing our lives on social media. So we're giving people room and allowing them to have judgment or make judgment based on how we live. So that's another key point. I didn't even think of all that earlier. But that's a key point that we have to take into consideration. If we are active on Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, posting our every move and basically sharing our day-to-day lives with persons, when people make opinions about what we do with our lives, first things first, we have to remember that's their opinion. An opinion is for you, it's yours. But at the same time, we can't be completely upset when it's an opinion that we don't want to hear, simply because we open that door and give way for people to have the opportunity to speak on our lives based on what we share. Agree? Yes or no? Because y'all don't have to agree with what I'm saying. And remember, your opinion is yours, so I can't get upset. And that's why I said I wanted to start the topic off before we dive into the different stereotypes with understanding constructive criticism. Shout out to everyone that's just joining. But yes, that's just basically my opinion about how, or my perspective on it. And that's just how we should take those things into consideration about life. So first, I think I'll start with the questions because I don't want to forget. I want to start off with the poll questions that persons answered. So I think the first one we can dive into is, I don't want to start with our Turks and Caicos stereotypes that we struggle with here now yet. I want to talk about more of general stereotypes that we all face, man and women. So, for instance, someone had here, and I think this is something that we deal with globally, not supporting black businesses because of poor service. And I added it, someone also said locals don't tip. But we'll touch on the locals don't tip part afterwards because I'm not sure of that. So, not supporting black businesses because of poor service. I have so much thoughts on that. First things first, I think the stereotype with us not supporting black businesses, I don't think that we don't support black businesses. I think we're quick to bash black businesses when the service is poor, because black businesses aren't the only businesses that struggle with poor service. And a lot of times we have to take into consideration, persons start businesses and they wing it. And business is something that you have to grow with over time. You don't always know everything about business all the time. And I think when within the black community and locally, the best thing to do is share constructive feedback. Because I'll tell you, if I go to a restaurant, if I don't like something, I'll tell them. Some persons, they get powdery, especially with restaurants. Some persons don't like to complain about, say, for instance, if their food wasn't up to par. They don't want to complain about the food because that whole thing about sending food back to the kitchen and stuff like that. So I can understand that. But sometimes places can't improve if they don't know what's wrong. And I guess that's why, not I guess, but that's why we have reviews. Sometimes if a business is set up on the internet, they can share their reviews on the website. So even if you don't say it directly, stuff like that helps businesses. And I think it's important that we are more vocal about certain things places can change. Now, it's one thing. Ivana said she's not sending her food back. Now, it's one thing if you go to some restaurants and you let them know, hi, I didn't really appreciate this, or I didn't like this, or your staff was rude, and you can tell that the culture and the environment there is just not it, and you realize the staff is rude because the manager is rude, and then at that point you just don't want to support. Now, if we're going to discuss locally, I've had experiences where, and I'm big on customer service. I think your food could be trash, but if your customer service is great, trust me, I would turn a blind eye to that, because some people want to know that you value their dollar. So if I'm spending my money somewhere, it's important that you at least have the attitude that you care enough that I feel some type of way about something. And this is why you're in business. You can't expect sweet comments about what you do all the time. And that's where growth and being educated about what you do and and the business you're running is important. Anybody got comments about that? Has anybody had experiences about going to businesses and they had poor service? I feel like everyone can share a testimony or a story about that. But anyways, so that's one of the things that was mentioned. The next one was only white people in our country are the only ones that have or can generate wealth. Rhonda said, sometimes the ruder the service, the better the food. Yeah, that's how I felt about when I was living in the States. What was it called? Golden Crust? Man, those people was rude in there. But honestly, they stew peas was lit, so I was going. I don't know which nationality you're talking about, sis. I don't want to assume. Yeah, I don't think it depends. I only send food back to places where I'm a regular and they know I mean well. But if it's a new, but if it's a new place, yeah, you can't get me to send the old food back there. I'm not doing it. But moving on. So the next stereotype is only white people in our country are the only ones that have or can generate wealth. I hate that stereotype. I hate that stereotype. I laughing around the comment. But yes, first things first. See, when it comes to this topic, that stereotype, it runs so deep that we can't summarize it in this one live right now. But, and I'll repeat it, only white people in our country are the only ones that have or can generate wealth. And we all know that's not the truth. However, it just goes back to generations. It's not true. Yes, Havana, it's not true. But yes, we can all see why it's a stereotype. I wouldn't say that it's factual. Because we're aware, because our generation is aware, it's up to us to change the dynamic and change the reality of that. Okay, naturally it seems that way, but at the end of the day, if you know you want to set the bar and set the tone and change the dynamic for future generations, yes, people come here with their money to invest, but what people don't understand about white people, and honestly, we need to change the narrative and the perspective. We can't always blame white people simply because most white people come from generational wealth, and we can't hold that against them. I mean, outside of slavery, but at the same time, we have to take into consideration that it's generational wealth. Now, with our culture, we struggle with a lot of different things. Knowing what's priority, educating ourselves on things that will give us the highest return. So all of those things have to be taken into account when thinking about generational wealth and what we can do here. So with that, it's very much a stereotype and it does have some facts to it, but at the same time, I look at it both ways, but at the same time, I don't, because it's not entirely our fault. And I mean, we could hold it against them because slavery, but I digress. Yes. And honestly, I'm trying to move past allowing slavery to be a crutch for us. Because don't get me wrong, I do feel that way. We were robbed of many, many different things. And at the same time, in different worlds, that doesn't exist for them. I had a friend that mentioned how they went to Africa on a trip a few years ago. And honestly, that poor life that they try to advertise and try to make it and try to convince us that, you know, it's a poor country. It doesn't entirely, it's not what it seems. I think black people that believe that once their kids reach a certain age, they need to go get it on their own, whereas releasing, handing down, and setting up their kids for the future. I agree. And we need to have the discussion of what do we put our priority in? Designer, fancy cars. It's not a crutch, it's a fact. And no, we shouldn't dwell on it. But the reality is that it's set up differently for us. It is set up differently for us. And I'm actually very happy that, 2020 has brought a different movement as far as Black Lives Matter, us pushing locals, supporting one another. And I just hope we can keep up the momentum. At the end of the day, that's the past, and we need to focus on moving forward, looking towards the future. We need to focus on what we can do now, what we can change now. Now, it is different, especially when it comes to trying to gain assets and liquidation in order to get property, in order to generate wealth for future generations. So I can understand the struggle for us. So moving on to the next stereotype. Let's see which one I want to use. I'm not choosing these in order. I'm going to save the funniest ones for last. Someone mentioned that, well, let me focus on this one. So let's have the conversation about Turks and Caicos Islanders and our spirit of entitlement and how we are considered lazy. This is a good one. I definitely want us to touch on this. So as far as Turks and Caicos Islanders and us having this spirit of entitlement and persons thinking that we are lazy. Do we have a spirit of entitlement? I personally feel so in certain aspects. Depending, yes, the lazy thing, I don't think I'm lazy. But as far as, yes, we are entitled. And at the end of the day, we need to understand that in order for us to value, oh, I hope my phone didn't go out. Sorry, guys. The entitlement thing, I don't even know how to address this, guys. I'm going to be so honest, and some of you can perhaps help me here. We do walk around with a sense of entitlement, and it's not fair. Sometimes there are jobs that we feel like we are entitled to, but we know, for example, we never really obtained the training for that. Okay, guys, I'm switching to Facebook 1 second. Let me read the comments here. Okay, so yes, there's an entitlement where certain things we feel like we don't have to work for, and I completely disagree. I completely don't agree with the fact that, you know, just because you're a Turks and Caicos Islander, you have certain rights to, for example, just on a small scale, a job. Oh, why doesn't a Turks and Caicos Islander have that job? First of all, I want all Turks and Caicos Islanders to win. Don't get me wrong. At the end of the day, I would love for us to dominate. We need to dominate in our own country, but we have to be honest with ourselves. There's no way that we can grow our country if we know that we lack in certain areas. And then on top of that, you know, you have persons who came from a different nationality or a different country and then came here for school and was raised here, but at the same time, because they're not an actual Turks and Caicos Islander, despite the fact that they were raised here, we feel like they aren't entitled to those same rights, even though they basically were raised like Turks and Caicos Islanders. I would love for us to change the dynamic of that thought process. It's very important that we change our outlook and our perspective on that, because that's how we'll continue to be set back. And if we're going to be honest with ourselves, we go to other people's countries to gain education, to gain higher pay or employment. But at the same time, if we're in other people's countries, they're not saying, oh, you're not a so-and-so. If they're allowing us to be in their country to obtain the same level of education and rights, then I don't see why we can't change the dynamic and the mentality here to have the same, to uplift people here that come here for the same opportunities. Like, yes, they're all trying to make a living like all of us. So let me read this comment here from Facebook. Some act like we are too high for a position such as a cleaner or a hotel maid. I agree. Not knowing that those positions have the most power when played right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Shout out to Venetia for that. That's so true. And not even just that. Let's think about what this pandemic showed us about essential workers. Some of us feel like we too good to be up in IGA bagging groceries. But guess what? IGA workers were the main ones secured with a JOB. So that's something that, you know, we need to take into consideration. Another stereotype here is TCI barely has talent. I haven't heard that stereotype often. I think with TCI talent, our issue here is just not enough resources for the youth and upcoming persons who want to pursue their dreams depending on what the talent is in order for them to showcase that. I feel like we don't have much options or opportunities here to show our talent. Y'all remember when was it? What was it? Provo Day or Miss Turks and Caicos pageant? You know, back in the days, it like when I think about it, I realize how important stuff like that was. Like what Turks and Caicos pageant, what Miss Turks and Caicos pageant, and those different events were molding us into, in my generation, what they were molding us up into. If the local talent isn't supported, and if we're going to be honest, we don't really have much events here in order for talent to be showcased the right way. So, but that was definitely a good one. But we know that there's talent here, but then sometimes we get upset when people move away to have a better opportunity to grow their talent. But at the end of the day, for instance, if there's no, I'll just use a small, minute example. If there isn't a dance school here, if I want to be a dancer, a professional dancer, if there's no dance school here, but that's what I'm passionate about, if I have to move to New York or California or someplace such as somewhere there to audition and improve my dancing skills or go to a dancing school, then that's what I have to do. It's not necessarily because I can't showcase my talent here. But hopefully that changes over time. Something the government can look into for sure. Another stereotype here. Something is wrong if you don't want to have children, or I added this portion to it, or at a certain age when you don't have children, something's wrong with you. I feel like women, I don't know if we'll ever shake that stereotype. I don't know if we'll ever shake that stereotype. And honestly, as a woman, I find myself doing it to other women without trying. I think it's just human nature, tradition. Most of us, most people you meet, they want children, they want to have kids. And sometimes it's just you meet a woman that's probably like 38 years old. Welcome to those on Facebook. Sometimes you just have to do what you have to do. So you can have someone that's 38. My sister, my older sister, she had children late. She had a child late. She only has one, sorry. And that's probably going to be her only one. More than women, you have some men whose mothers are pressuring them for grandkids too. That's so true. That's so true. And at the end of the day, I don't understand why we make having children a deal breaker for certain relationships. I'm reading a comment from Facebook, guys. One moment. Your passionate and opportunity may be only to increase power and break a certain struggle. Absolutely. Absolutely. Shout out to Young Jamma on Facebook Live. Absolutely. Reverting back to the stigma about having kids. And for me, now that I'm getting older and I'm coming to a place where I try to look within myself, I want to be very cautious and mindful when I do decide to be a mother. And I think that's what people aren't considering. I think this generation is more conscious emotionally and mentally. So we're now in a different mental state where we're saying, you know what? I don't want to bring a child into a broken home. I don't want to bring a child into this world unless I know that I am financially stable. I have generational wealth for them lined up in the event something happens to me. So I think that's just what it is for us. Women, we're more conscious now. We think about health issues. There's so many different reasons why women aren't having kids or haven't had children yet. And we need to be more sensitive about that as well. So that was definitely a good stereotype that was brought up. Shout out to Say Shazam Lifestyle. Miss Alcera, guys, my algebra teacher from high school is on the live. That is so hysterical. And she used to do this thing called, she used to say Shazam. And she named her Instagram Shazam. I never realized that. It's so funny. Shout out to you, Miss Alcera. Thanks for tuning in. Okay, so moving on. Another stereotype that someone wanted to address is platonic male and female relationships. Why do we feel like a male and a female cannot be friends, strictly friends? Why do we feel that way? I personally know that male and females can be friends. I have my good friend. We've been friends for years. For years. But at the same time, it's always that conversation in the back of your mind that if the opportunity, hi darling, if the opportunity arises and he would try me, would he? I think I'm going to text him that tonight and ask him. Small-minded. Mish, I'm with you. Small-minded. And perhaps you just haven't had... Hi, Keith. Thanks for tuning in. And perhaps, and honestly, if you haven't had a male or female friend where y'all just were strictly friends, then what kind of friend are you? Because what kind of friend are you? Like, I think that's weird. And honestly, I'm very thankful for my male relationship because I think he keeps me balanced more than my female friends because I'm emotional. My friends are emotional. Not to say it's about an emotional thing because I have emotional guy friends, but I feel like men and women, we're here to balance each other out. And I find that my male friends balance me out a lot. So I'm thankful to have that. Most times you feel like they have an ulterior motive. Yeah. But at the end of the day, if you guys are genuinely friends and you set that boundary, then why can't we be friends? And at the end of the day, you guys know what your relationship is. You know what it's built on. If I get into a relationship right now and I have my close guy friend that naturally came before this man, so technically my loyalty is to my friend because your name just reach. But if I respect you enough and at the same time respect my friend, that's something that I'm going to clear the air on right away. Johnny, meet Joe. Joe has been my guy friend for 10 years. Joe, this is my new man, Johnny. And, you know, at the end of the day, just so we're clear where everybody stands, you know, if you see, who is my friend, guys? Joe. If you see Joe call me, babe, that ain't nothing, you know. It's all about respect. There's no way I'm going to, if I start dating a guy and he has female friends in his life, the only thing that I could think is if you don't introduce me to your female friends, now naturally I would think if y'all just friends, why can't you introduce me? So that's what you have to take into consideration when it comes to your male and female friends and knowing that it's strictly platonic. That's just my opinion on that. It all boils down to respect. Hello, welcome everyone that's just tuning in. I just want to confirm that I'm here live on Instagram and on Facebook. And if you're tuned in on Facebook, thank you for joining as well. But the topic here is the damaging effects of stereotypes and how to change the perspective. So we're just having an open conversation. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. So the last stereotype that I just addressed was about platonic male and female relationships. Persons feeling like it can just never be that. And my bottom line opinion and take on that is at the end of the day, if you have a male or a female friend and perhaps you go into a relationship, if the relationship is what it is and there's no strings attached in that physical department, then there's no reason that you can't go to your partner, introduce them and let them know their role in your life, and for everyone to know their place and to have a respectful understanding. That's just my thoughts. So I guess since we're talking about relationships, another stereotype came in that all TI men are dogs. I was trying to save that one for last, but let's discuss it. I can only laugh. I don't believe all TI men are dogs. That's just it. That's the stereotype, but I don't think all TI men are dogs. I may laugh and joke about it, but yeah, say 89% true. 89% true that all TI men are dogs. That's not true. That's not true. Let me tell y'all something. And it's so ironic because my family and I were discussing this last night. When it comes to dating here in Turks and Caicos, the island is so small. On top of social media, people already indirectly feel like they know you before they actually meet you. So first of all, let's address that before we say all TI men are dogs. This is what I've been experiencing in the last 3 years of me being back home. It also depends on how you define dog. Yes, of course, dog meaning Rhonda, they got more than one girlfriend. They always entertaining more than one person at the same time. We know what dog mean. Yeah, because what you may tolerate, I may not. Correct, Rhonda. Now, what I will say is, at the end of the day, if most of us are have mutual friends. Naturally, most of us here are just tied up in some way. If it ain't your auntie, sister, cousin, it's your friend. And if somebody having like a little dinner party, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna see just mutual friends, etc. So we already have this perception that we know who someone is before we actually meet them. That's step one to me. Now, the next thing is, because, okay, for instance, something as simple as Instagram, okay, we ran into each other at the same party. So say I'm scrolling through comments or likes, or you come up on my feed as a suggestion. I just hit follow, and I start following you on Instagram. And I'm going through your page. So then I start making, no, let me not say that. Okay. Say I go and follow a guy that I think I'm interested in. Say my cousin Rhonda knows him, but I don't know him, but she's the mutual party. So I hit up Rhonda and be like, Rhonda, you know Johnny? Johnny gonna be the name for today, y'all. You know Johnny? And she say, girl, don't worry about that. Like, Johnny ain't nobody. Blah, blah, blah. And she's gonna have her opinions about Johnny before you actually get to know Johnny personally yourself. Now, granted, don't get me wrong. You do have to see now how yes, I gotta use you. Now, granted, you have to take into consideration now if someone is giving you a heads up about a person and they're just letting you know, listen, Cleta, this dude ain't known for, or female, because we keep saying dudes. Well, because the thing was all TI men are dogs. But yes, you can take what they say into consideration. But at the same time, if many red flags are there that say Johnny is a dog. However, what the point that I was making to my family last night is, what if Johnny is on a different path? Yes, he was a dog. He was blazing his trail. He was considered a womanizer, and he has his past. And now years has gone by. He's trying to change, and he's been doing the self-work. But because I allow those people's opinions about him get into my head, I've already gone into that situation without giving him a fair chance to prove. You don't always need somebody to prove to you that they are who they are. If red flags ain't enough, then I don't know. But at the same time, you got to know what you can tolerate. But that's like a whole relationship discussion in itself. But I'm here to defend TI men, to say that they are all not dogs, and that's just my stance on it. Yes, Keith, learn to formulate your own opinion about people. Go based on their actions, because say I'm the difference that Johnny needs. Say once Johnny meet me, there's something about our chemistry, and say we're very compatible, and I just caught him at a different time in his life, in a more mature time in his life. So at this point, I won't have the same experience with Johnny when he was in his whole phase. That's just that. But I mean, it's only so much of that I could defend. Let me read the comments. In a group of people, if a group of people say it's a duck, you don't always have to find out if it quacks. I agree, but that's just the point that I'm making. At the end of the day, if that's the case, then yeah, this is a hard comment. Like, listen, I can need alcohol to talk about this conversation. But I get what you're saying, Renelle, but at the same time, you just have to understand, like Keith said, you need to form your own opinion. Are you wrong for that? Forming your own opinion about somebody? not entirely. But at the same time, you can't cry wolf when you find out that it does quack. And that's just the bottom line. That's just the risk. If you're willing to take that risk, fine. But we can't walk around saying all TI men are dogs, because how a man treat me may not necessarily mean he's going to treat, might say for example, Rhonda the same way. Can't compare. TCI people never let the past go. Johnny failed before he could ever begin. Right. You need a whole night for this topic. Yeah. So I'm going to move on to the next to the next stereotype. But the bottom line is I'm not giving up on TI men. Hope, at least I'm trying not to. But yes. What's another one? Go-getter women always wear the pants in a relationship. Ladies, what y'all think? I want someone in the comments to tell me if they've ever been like the go-getter, probably made more in their relationship than another man. I can start charging you every time you bring up my name. Leave me alone. Girl, I'm going to deal with you after the show. But how do you guys feel? Go-getter women always wear the pants in a relationship. That's not true. Have I ever been in a relationship where I made more than somebody, or I was like, I mean, I would say yes, but he definitely used to have me in check. But yeah, no, but it's not true. It's not true. Somebody said I'm unqualified for this. Yeah, I think that stereotype. I think what the stereotype should have said was, hold on, I'm formulating it in my head, is that tradition has taught us that men should always make more than the women. So because you find women that are making more than men, people just automatically feel like the woman is dominant in that relationship because she makes more. And that's not always the case. And at the end of the day, it depends on your relationship, because some people, finances aren't a big thing for them. You know, and say for instance, I make more than my man. It's my business what I do with my money with my man. If I making say $100,000 a year and I decide that I want to buy my man a truck, but technically his salary can't afford to buy me a truck, that doesn't make him less of a man. If I could afford to buy my man a truck, I'm going to buy him a truck. Does that make me less of a woman because I buy my man a truck and he can't afford to buy me a truck? It shouldn't really matter. And at the end of the day, if you are in a relationship where you're making more than a person, that's some boundaries and common ground that y'all need to make clear right away, so that way that's not an insecurity or a strain on your relationship about funds. And then of course it gets different if you guys start living together. You know, of course you just decide who's gonna cover what bills, or maybe you make more and he still can make sure you ain't gotta cover bills. Some women making more and men still giving them their allowance out of what you would consider small check, and so forth and so forth. So doesn't matter. Remember, your relationship is yours. You have to live with that person. So don't allow society to make you feel like because you making more than a man that makes him less than, because that's not the case at all. So I think I'm almost done with some of my stereotypes. Let me see here, guys. That someone said that being black and intelligent is acting white. Why, when black persons speak properly, we feel like they're acting white? Where did that connotation come from? That, you know what this reminds me of, when I tell persons that, you know, I'm half Haitian because my mom is from Haiti, and they're like, oh, you don't even look like a Haitian. And I'm like, what does a Haitian look like? That's a stereotype in itself too. That's a good one. How do Haitians really look? Like, if you're Haitian, how does a Haitian look like? I mean, I know, and sometimes you can tell, okay, this person is Haitian, but at the same time, that's rude. When people say that to me, I'm just like, ignorant. Yeah, no, you're wrong. Period. So yes, please, let's discuss this. Being black and intelligent is acting white. Why do we feel that? You know why people say that? Because at the end of the day, we've, due to, of course, we've already talked about, we've mentioned slavery. We have been programmed that, first of all, white is right, and at the end of the day, we put white people on a pedestal that they are more educated than us. Wow. Havana says she gets asked if she's Haitian because she's dark. That's just shallow and ignorant. But that's definitely a stereotype. Most people feel like when you dark like charcoal, you either from Haiti or something like that. And it just has a negative connotation to it. It's not cool at all. But I feel as far as the stereotype where someone mentioned that being black and intelligent and intelligent is acting white. And honestly, when people say that, it just goes to show your own insecurity about your intelligence level. You feel like you're not educated enough. Just because you articulate yourself and speak a certain way or use a certain vocabulary doesn't mean that you're acting white. Like that's just dead wrong. Someone said over here on Facebook, oh my gosh, include bougie and you're officially the white sheep of the family. Somebody sent me a message. Sorry, guys. Yeah, I don't understand why people do that. Honestly, you're tearing yourself down when you make comments like that as a black person. And at the end of the day, I know how to walk into a room with professionals and carry conversation to their caliber or my caliber, whichever one. And I know how to be ratchet when I'm ready. I know how to go down to gutter ways and. But what does that make me? Because I can do both. I still am who I am who I am. I'm Cleta. And I can diversify myself. So remind someone when they make that comment, it's a reflection of their own insecurity about how they feel about themselves. All right, peeps, I think we actually touched up on all of the stereotypes that you guys sent in. I was touching on those first before we dived into any other. Right. There's a time for everything. Classy and ratchet. The stigma of black people and lack of education is ingrained into us. Yes, I said that. We do I don't think I wrote it down, but someone did mention how persons feel like white is right. Yeah, but I feel that we're in a different era where we're slowly growing away from that. So definitely don't have to continue on with that mentality. So just continue to enforce with your brothers and sisters that this is our culture and it's not meant to be understood by everybody. So we're just on time because we all know the live goes out in an hour, and I came on early. I think I came on at 6:55. So first things first, I just want to thank everyone that's been engaging in the comments. Thank you so much for persons who also tune in and discussing the topic with me and the different stereotypes. I did mention earlier that this week's show is sponsored by TRG, and I want to do the give back differently because usually I do a game segment, but because I'm live in two places on Facebook and Instagram, it'll be harder for me to keep up with comments, and I want to be fair. So I think with everything that's going on, especially with the increased cases of COVID-19 here in Turks and Caicos, yesterday was up to 155. I'm not sure what it is as of now. I didn't update myself. So I will say that I want to do it differently because someone may really, really need this. So I'm going to put my email, or can somebody put it for me? Rhonda, can you type out my cletasoulchild@gmail.com so I can pin it? So the sponsored prize is a revamped resume. Miss Melanie is going to assist someone with changing up their resume, tweaking it, enhancing it. And I want to make sure with this give back it goes to somebody who's really in need. So what you'll have to do is basically send an email to my cletasoulchild@gmail.com if you're someone that's trying to win this revamped resume. Sorry, just penning the comment. Thank you, Rhonda. If you're someone that is interested in winning this resume, all you have to do is just email me at cletasoulchild@gmail.com. Tell me a little bit about yourself if you'd like to share a brief story, and just explain why you think you deserve the resume. And you have up until midnight tonight to send me the email. And perhaps if someone is not on this live, well, no, keep it to persons on the side, but if you know someone who may really need it and you're watching on this live, you can also share with them to email me at cletasoulchild@gmail.com. Remember to share who you are, just a brief story about yourself. You ain't got to tell me your business or nothing, but just explain a brief description of why you feel like you deserve to win this prize, and I will make the announcement tomorrow on my Instagram story. So I just want to thank everybody so much for tuning in. I am going to end the live a little bit early today. I hope that you guys enjoyed the topic. I'm not sure if there's anything else anyone wants to address before we leave, or any comments that persons want to make. On Facebook or Instagram. Forget like going live in two places. So y'all don't have nothing to say? Because I know the timer is going to come up in like 2 more minutes before the live shuts off. Thanks, Brianna. Appreciate it. I feel like with the stereotypes, it's just so much that we can definitely discuss and touch up on. But at the end of the day, we really just have to, for me, thank you, Venetia over here on Facebook. At the end of the day, you know, guys, I'm all about just self-evaluation, self-improvement, and just starting with you. Everything starts with us. And though we are put in certain categories and stereotypes, one thing I want to use someone as a great example who's very true to themselves, but does have a high standard in our community. I love AK. Honorable Akira Mizik. I just love that she is just herself, man, no matter what she does. You know, okay, so the time is coming up, guys, so it'll be going out in 2 minutes. The stereotypes in the classrooms get addressed more often. Honestly, Brianna, like at the end of the day, it all starts with just having the discussion, or even amongst your peers. And at the end, it's just all about you, you know, and don't be scared to vocalize how you feel in certain situations. But I can definitely say that at the end of the day, be true to yourself. And I was referencing Honorable Akira, like she's just herself. I really have a level of respect for her. She doesn't lose herself in, first of all, politics. And at the end of the day, she owns Akira Mizik, and she'll tell you straight up, hey, yes, I am a lawyer by day and a politician, but by night, I live my life, and that's nobody's business, you know? And we just have to be grounded within ourselves, secure within ourselves, and just be honest about your insecurities. I know I am, at least to my family. I don't come on here and share it. And that's the thing, we don't normalize sharing our negatives here on platforms, social media, Twitter. You know, all of us want to pretend like we okay, but in actuality, we're not. So thank you again, everyone, for tuning in. We're 30 seconds down, and I just want to say thank you so much for persons on Facebook and Instagram for participating. I hope you enjoyed the show, and just remember, before you go out passing judgment on others and putting persons in categories and stereotyping them, think about how that will make you feel when people do that to you. Okay? So you guys have a great Sunday. Be safe, wear your mask, sanitize your hands, and have an awesome week. Thanks for tuning in. It's your girl, Cleta Soul Child. Bye.